Okay, good afternoon, students. Welcome to my workshop, and I'm very happy to see that there are students who attended my previous workshop coming again to have a discussion with me about IELTS Writing Task 2 this afternoon. As some of you may know, I'm Dr. Chris Kwan from Hong Kong U. Actually, I graduated from Hong Kong U last year, and I'm doing some research in applied linguistics, and I'm particularly interested in IELTS exam. In the IELTS exam, so thank you, the Language Center, for inviting me to deliver this IELTS writing workshop again. Okay. As you can see from the schedule here, last week actually I gave another workshop on IELTS Writing Task 1. But this time, it is actually kind of like a continuation. And in this workshop, I will focus on Task 2, and more specifically, the language items, including grammar and vocabulary that you need in order to succeed in IELTS Writing Task 2. So, if you so as you can see from the schedule here, I also have two other workshops, one on speaking and one on grammar in the coming 2 weeks. So if you are interested in these two workshops, you can register, or if there's a time clash, all the workshops are recorded, right? And the recordings will be uploaded to the Language Center YouTube channel for you to watch or to revisit the workshop content. So that's that. Today, let's focus on IELTS Writing Task 2. For today's workshop, I have two intended learning outcomes that I would like you to achieve. Number one, I hope that by the end of this workshop, you should be able to identify the essential grammar and grammatical and lexical items that you need for your IELTS Writing Task 2. I will focus on four in this workshop, and I will show you what the four typical language features are in the later slides. And apart from the identification of these grammar and vocabulary, I also hope that you can apply these typical language features in writing a an IELTS Task 2 essay. So this is what I plan to do with you in today's workshop. The same as last time, I will begin with some basic information about IELTS Writing Task 2. And then I will focus more attention on the typical language features that you need in order to tackle the writing tasks in IELTS Writing Task 2. And I will also give you some reminders of some academic writing features that you need to apply in your IELTS writing. And I will wrap up the session by giving you some personal tips as usual. So let me begin by giving you some background information about IELTS writing with a particular focus on task 2. Last time I said task 1 is actually an information report, right? So task 2 is a bit different, but I'm sure that you will be more familiar with what you need to do in IELTS Writing Task 2, because IELTS Writing Task 2 is basically an extended writing task. Here, extended writing means you need to produce a longer piece of writing. For task 1, you need to produce 150 words, but for task 2, it's 250 words. So it's called an extended writing task. It means it means a longer essay. In task 2, you need to produce an academic essay by giving your arguments or opinions about a societal or a world issue. And as said, you have to write about 250 words. Actually, 250 words isn't that long, right? But you have to you have to produce a piece of 250 words in about 40 minutes if you want to succeed in the IELTS writing paper. So let me just remind you that actually you have an hour to finish the whole reading paper. And the writing paper. And the writing paper is divided into two tasks. Task 1, information report, and task 2, essay or extended writing task. So this is actually a sample writing task. As you can see on the right hand side of the screen, you are given something like a statement. The mark of a successful person is to be wealthy and have a successful career. Okay, you are given this statement, and then you are given the question: to what extent do you agree or disagree? Well, this is a typical writing task in IELTS writing task too, because the aim of this task is to see how well you can handle an essay, or more specifically, an argumentative or expository essay, depending on the task requirements. So I've just mentioned the terms expository writing and argumentative writing. And I will argue that these are the two text types that you will be asked, or you'll be told to write in the IELTS writing exam. I mean writing task two. Task 2. So if we break the chart down into specific details, actually you will be able to find 5 different types of tasks. For expository writing, you will be told to write problem solution essay. For example, you'll be told, you'll be informed of a problem, or it can be a societal problem, or it can be a world issue. For something like, for example, unemployment or global warming or the use of the internet, etc. Okay, so this is the issue, and you have to explain the problems, explain like the reasons or the causes, possible causes for the problem. And then you have to propose solutions to tackle the problem. So this is what I mean by problem solution essay. Actually, this question type is actually the easiest, because as the name suggests, it is actually expository in nature, meaning that you only have to make use of the typical language features to explain something to your examiners. So if you encounter if you see this text type in the IELTS writing exam, then you are very lucky, because this text type is actually very easy to handle. But for argumentative writing, it's a bit I wouldn't say very difficult, but not as easy as expository writing, because in a piece of argumentative writing, it requires you to think about uh, um, both sides of the issue. Here you can see, actually we have one-sided or two-sided argumentative writing. Sometimes in the IELTS writing exam, you will be told to write a piece of one-sided argumentative writing or a two-sided argumentative writing. So what does one-sided or two-sided mean? Okay, for one-sided argumentative writing, uh, like the one that I've shown you before, you are given a statement, and you are told to express your view on whether you agree, or whether you agree or disagree with this statement. It looks like a piece of expository writing, because it requires you to say, okay, say for example, I agree with this statement because of 3 reasons. Reason number 1, blah blah blah. Reason number 2, blah blah blah, and reason number 3, blah blah blah. But it is actually a one-sided argumentative writing, in the sense that your answer would be more thorough if you could also consider what the views, or what the opposing views are. Say, for example, even if you disagree with this statement, it would be good if your answer also considers why some people would agree with this statement. This is what I mean by incorporating or considering the opposing view, so that your answer can be more complete or thorough. Sometimes you are told to explain the advantages or disadvantages of something in a one-sided argumentative piece of work. Okay, this is again not very difficult to handle because it's actually one-sided in nature, but it would be good if you could also consider say consider the opposing view. Say if your answer focuses more on the advantages of something, it may also be a good idea if you could mention some disadvantages of that thing, but you do a rebuttal. So this is what I mean by considering the opposing view in a one-sided argumentative writing. Sometimes in the IELTS writing exam, you'll be able to you'll be told to write a two-sided argumentative writing. In a two-sided argumentative writing, you are either told to discuss both points of view, or you should discuss both points of view plus your own opinion. So an example would be a question asking you to discuss um, the strengths and weaknesses of something, like of the internet, and then towards the end of the essay, you give your own opinion as to whether the internet is a good thing or not. So let me summing up from the diagram. Actually, we can have two text types that we need to work on to prepare for our IELTS writing exam. That is expository and argumentative writing. And under these two terms, actually we can have 5 different types of tasks: problem solution essay, agree or disagree, advantages or disadvantages, discuss both point of views, or discuss both points of view and give an opinion. So altogether, 5 different types of tasks. Although I've divided as you can see from my classification in my previous slide, although I've divided the types of tasks into 5, actually they share a similar communicative purpose. That is, through your essay, you may be told to explain a phenomenon, like for example, global warming, or the use of, or the rise of the internet, or the rise, or even more recently, the rise of ChatGPT, or the rise of AI, artificial intelligence. So this is a phenomenon that you need to explore or explain in detail. Or in an IELTS writing task, you may be told to justify a point of view. Say you agree or disagree with a statement, and you explain why, and you also consider the opposing view. Or a more advanced skill that you need to demonstrate is to explore different aspects of an issue. Usually, there are some questions asking you to discuss the strengths and limitations of an issue, of something, and then you give your own opinion or recommendation. This is what I mean by exploring different aspects of an issue. The reason why I've divided the possible types of tasks into 5 is that they entail, or they have different text structures. But since the workshop is not about how to organize your argumentative or expository essays, I would suggest that you go and watch this video. Actually, it appears on YouTube, and you can click on this link and the video explains very clearly the text structure that you should adopt for each type of the tasks that I've mentioned. Instead of focusing on the text structure, in this workshop, I will focus more on the grammar and vocabulary that you need to pay attention to when you are writing argumentative and expository essays. So let me move on to another part of the workshop that is about the typical language features that you need for argumentative and expository essays. So here I'm showing you a sample task and also a sample paragraph. The task is that some people believe the aim of university education is to help graduates get better jobs. Others believe there are much wider benefits of university education for both individuals and society. So, you are given two sides of the same issue. Well, the issue is university education, right? So here you are given both sides. Some people think that um, university education should be like this, but some people believe that university education should be like that. Okay, so two sides of the same issue, and um, and in your essay, you are told to discuss both views and give your opinion. So this is a typical example of a two-sided argumentative writing. So on the right of the screen, actually you can see a paragraph, right? Some words are highlighted in different colors. Okay, let me ask you have a look at this paragraph. Let me ask you some questions as you read. Okay, can we look at the words highlighted in red? You can see words highlighted in red like because, as a result, and so. Do you know how we could call these words? Okay, any response here? You can type your answer here. Oh, to say thank you. It's a link work. Yes. They are linking words actually. Okay, maybe can I ask you one more question? What is the key function of because, as a result, and so? Why do we use these words here? So for the other students, actually, you can also type your answers here in the chat box. Don't worry if you can't get the correct answer. I'm not looking for correctness. I'm just checking how much you have understood. Yes, carry on the sentence. Yes, good. Yes, good. It links the sentences. I think what Zifei means is actually linking the previous sentence to the next sentence, or within the sentence, linking the first part to the second part. Okay, but is there a relationship between the two parts of the sentence? Like, let me take this as an example. Firstly, the independence of living away from home is a benefit because it helps the students develop better social skills and improve as a person. So, what is the relationship between the phrase "the independence of living away from home is a benefit," or actually it should be a clause? What is the relationship between the clause before because, and the clause after because. Excellent, Zifei, thank you. Cause and effect. Yes, this is actually the term that I would like to introduce to you. The words highlighted in red are instances of the language of cause and effect, which I will explain in a minute. Okay, we use because as a result or so to link two parts of the same sentence, which expresses a cause and effect relationship. Well, this is a very important language feature because uh, above all, in a piece of argumentative and expository writing, you have to explain something, explain the cause, explain the reason, explain something to your examiner in a lucid manner. Okay, very good, Zivei. Thank you. It's a very nice answer. Okay, cause and effect. So other than the language of cause and effect, what about the word in order to towards the end of the paragraph? We are living in a very competitive world, so countries, especially developing countries, need educated people in order to compete and prosper. What is the function of in order to here? So if you take a look at the clause before in order to, countries, especially developing countries, need educated people. Okay, this is a suggestion, right? This is a suggestion given by the author or by the writer. But why is the writer using the word in order to before compete and prosper? The reason is to introduce the reason or the purpose of doing something, right? The purpose of um, um, educating people is to have enough people who can compete and prosper, make the country prosper. All right. So there is actually a uh, well, there's actually an expression of the purpose of the action. Okay, we call in order to the language of purpose. I will talk more about the language of purpose in a minute. So have a look at words highlighted in green. Firstly, for instance, secondly, these are, I think you know, I think what these are what they said linking words, right? Link words. These words are linking different bits of points or ideas together within the same paragraph. But notice that firstly, secondly, and for instance, they have different purposes or they have different functions, right? We use firstly or secondly to give to list the points, or we use for instance to give an example. Again, I will talk about the use of these linking words in a minute, but bear in mind that linking words are actually one of the typical language features that you need to be able to use well in expository or argumentative writing. So finally, take a look at the words highlighted in blue. Okay, will. Well, basically will and can. How do we call these words? Do you remember what your secondary school teachers told you about these words? Will, can, we have a name for these words. What is the name? Actually, if you have a look at my handout, you will be able to see I've used a term to refer to these words. Maybe in your secondary schools, actually, your teacher may be using the term modal verbs or sometimes semi-modal verbs, but I'm using the term, a more professional term, that is modality. I will talk more about modality later, okay, in the latter part of this workshop. So let me conclude. These are the four typical language features that we will be practicing during this workshop: language of cause and effect, language of purpose, modality, and linking words. These four typical language features are important for argumentative and expository writing because they help to achieve the communicative purpose of such essays. That is, these grammatical or lexical features can help you present your arguments, your opinions very clearly to your reader. And that's why we'll be practicing these four typical language features during this workshop. So any questions up to this point? Okay, if you have questions here, if you have questions about any points of the workshop, feel free to stop me. Okay, maybe I will move on to go into detail about each of these typical language features. Let me begin with the first one, the language of cause and effect. Actually, well, as you can see from the so-called formula here, there is a range of words that you can use. Okay, a result of, because of, brought about by, blah blah blah. Um, we can use these words to express the relationship or to link the cause and the effect within sentences. So let us have a look at this example. This time the task is about another issue, that is overfishing, right? This time it is an example of an expository essay because it is about the problem and it is related to the explanation of the problem and a description of the solutions. Okay, so it is a typical problem solution essay type. If you have a look at the paragraph here, actually the writer explains some reasons why overfishing exists. Okay, so the writer is using using words, linking words like because of, results in, leads to, causes as a result of, and due to, in order to link the cause, the effect, the cause and the effect together. Um, it doesn't matter whether the effect or the cause appears first. Um, but make sure that um, when you are using some of these words here, like for example, after, because of, after, due to, after result in or leads to, you use the noun phrase correctly, right? As you know, after some of these words, let me go back to the previous slide. After some of these words, actually you should use a noun phrase instead of giving a complete sentence. Is for example, as a result of something, as a result of overfishing, as a result of the ignorance uh, of different people because of something, right? We used a noun phrase after some of these words. So we need to be very careful about uh the sentence structure when we are using some of these words, like because of, results in, leads to, and due to express cause and effect relationships. You can refer to my examples here if you're not sure about uh, which words should appear before a noun phrase. Okay. So this is an example of language of cause and effect. Before I talk about the language of purpose, I would like to remind you that there can be a range of language expressing cause and effect relationships, like for example, conditional sentences. If we do this, something will happen. Well, the use of this is what we call first type conditionals. It's actually an example of language of cause and effect. I will cover more about these sentence structures in the grammar workshop 2 weeks later. Just because today I don't think I will have enough time to go through all the sentence structures that can be related to language of cause and effect. But I hope that in today's workshop, you should have the concept that actually we need language, we need some language devices or some grammar items to express the cause and effect relationships of uh, the cause and effect relationship in argumentative and expository essays. So let me move on to the language of purpose. Other than in order to, I think if you refresh your memory on your grammar learning in your secondary school, um, uh, it's not just in order to that we can use. There can be a range of other words that can be similar to in order to, like simply to, so that in this way, in order to, with the purpose of something. Um, like the example here. But let me remind you again that after words like with the purpose of, okay, towards the end of this paragraph, with the purpose of, with a view to, with the aim of, after these phrases, we need to use a noun phrase here. So that's why here you can see enforcing these laws worldwide. Okay, enforce the verb enforcing is being turned into a gerund, right? Enforcing these laws worldwide, because after the phrase with the purpose of, we need a noun phrase, and enforcing these laws worldwide is actually a noun phrase. So just to bear in mind that when we are using these words, these linking words, we do have to think about grammar. Okay, by the word grammar here, I mean whether the sentence is grammatically correct. Sometimes we need a noun phrase after these linking words, but sometimes we need a full complete sentence after these words. If you are in doubt, you can refer to some grammar books like Practical English Usage to check the usages of these words before you use them in your argumentative or expository writing. So the language of purpose is actually linking a suggested action to the desirable results. I've pointed out this in a few slides before, but here I'm just using this example to show you more sentences that in which we can use the language of purpose, like in order to link an action that we suggest and the desirable result that the action could hopefully lead to. Okay, you should have another set of handouts, right? It's actually an activity that I would like you to do. Can you give me just a few seconds so that I can shift the screen to another document? Okay, can you see the Word document here? Okay, good. Thank you, Ziwei. Good. Thank you. So, the purpose of this activity is to help you apply the language features that we have just talked about into practice. This is just a very small practice, but I hope that it may give you some ideas of how we can apply the language of cause and effect, and also um, later modal verbs into argumentative and expository writing. Okay, so have a look at this task. This is a sample IELTS writing task. The internet has transformed the way information is shared and consumed, but it has also created problems that didn't exist before. What do you think are the most serious problems associated with the internet, and what can be done about these problems? So this is an example of an expository essay in the sense that it only requires you to explain the causes and the problem in detail and also the solutions. Again, to again a few solutions that can be adopted to resolve the issue. So imagine you're now working on this writing task and you have drafted the introduction already. So can we just do part A now? Because part A is about the language of cause and effect. Now, imagine you have produced a writing plan like this. Okay, you have identified two problems about the use of the internet, right? Problem one and problem two. So this is what you are going to do in your paragraph. You are going to write your paragraph. Actually, it's this one. Okay. Imagine this is the first body paragraph that you are going to work on. And what I would like you to do now is to make use of this writing plan in order to apply the language of cause and effect to explain the results of the two problems that you have identified. I've already highlighted in gray in the writing plan that you can see. Okay. So these are the two results of these two problems. So simply speaking, in your paragraph here, you can see two gaps, right? Two gaps. And you finish the paragraph by adding the appropriate content using the language of cause and effect. But I've given you the relevant content that you need to supply. So you can refer to the words highlighted in gray and put these two points into complete sentences. All right, ladies and gentlemen, how's your paragraph? Does anyone want to share your paragraph with us? I can give you feedback. Of course, I have I have a model for you to learn from. But before I show you my model, I would like to see how you constructed the sentences first. Maybe your sentences are better than my versions. So it's very important for me to see the sentences that you have written. Anyone would like to share your what you have written for your first body paragraph? Yesterday, this may, or you can share your screen with us if you don't mind. Okay, thank you, Zifei. This may affect. Okay, I'm referring to the gap here. Okay, the gap here. For example, pornography sites are easily accessible to them because they can register with the site and claim to be an adult. This may affect their thoughts and development, which may be a negative influence on the children and for society. So, Zifei, okay, uh, okay, even though you're not using the linking words that I introduced in the PowerPoint slides, this is actually a good example of linking uh, the cause and the effect here using a relative clause, right? Which may be a negative influence on the children and society. So, Zifei, do you have the answer for the second sentence, or the other students? So, any suggestions or any some or any ways of putting the result here? Criminals get sensitive information. This any ways that we can use to put this piece of information into a complete sentence using appropriate language of cause and effect. Any ideas? Any answers? Good. Thank you, Zive. As a result, criminals get sensitive information. Yes, exactly. You use the word as a result or the linking word as a result. Yes. If you use this sentence, then after hacked, Hacked, will need to put a full stop. But this is perfectly fine as a result. Criminals get sensitive information. This is perfectly fine, absolutely correct. Thank you very much, Zive, for your contribution. Actually, your two sentences are well written. In the sense that they are not only grammatical, but it also expresses, the cause and effect using appropriate language of if cause and effect. Okay, I'm showing you my version. Okay, okay, so these are the two sentences that I've written. Of course, I don't mean these are the only ways of um, writing the sentences. These are just some suggestions. Okay. Of course, like Ziwei, the sentences written by Ziwei are, of course, perfectly acceptable. No problem. Okay. But here, what I'm using is browsing these sites. Okay, pornography sites can affect youngsters' thoughts and development, which will lead to a negative impact for the children and for society. I'm using the word lead to, okay, to link the cause, okay, the cause, which I've highlighted here, and the effect, again, which I've highlighted here, use, using the linking word lead to, right? Lead to, X will lead to Y. Okay, here, there are constant news about stories. There are constant news stories about government and company websites that have been hacked, resulting in sensitive information falling into the hands of criminals. The reason why I haven't put the full stop here is that is for me to use resulting in, well, this time it is actually a present participle clause. Okay, resulting in sensitive information falling into the hands of criminals. But basically the word is result in. X results or will result in Y. Okay, so this is the cause and this is the effect. Okay, so I'm just using these two examples to show you how we can use lead in and lead to and result in. Okay, so This is just a very small exercise stimulating your thinking about the use of the language of cause and effect in argumentative and expository writing. So let me just talk a bit about modality before we have a break, okay? So um, you may feel a bit scared when I use the term modality, but well, this is actually a professional term that we apply linguists use to refer to modal verbs and semi-modal verbs. And I'm sure you have learned these words in primary schools and you have revisited them a lot of times, okay, in secondary education, right? Words like can and could, or must, or have to, or ought to, right? And I'm sure your previous English teachers have told you, okay, we have to use the bare infinitive after these words, right? So using these words is not really difficult. But you may wonder why we are using these words in a text. Well, in the context of IELTS Writing Task 2, actually we are using these modals and semi-modals in order to achieve two communicative purposes or function or very broad functions. Of course, modal verbs can have a lot of functions, but I'm narrowing the whole thing into the context of IELTS Writing Task 2, highlighting the two key functions only for you to practice or to apply in your task 2 exam. We use models to make predictions. We can guess the result of something. Okay, like for example, if we do this, something will happen. Okay, in the sentence that I just mentioned, um, I was using the modal will to make a prediction to guess the result of something. If something happens, okay, if something happens, another thing will happen. Okay, we use modals like will to make predictions, but more commonly, we use modals to give suggestions. As you have seen in my previous slides, the writers were using modals to give some suggestions about what can be done to solve an issue, like the use of may or the use of sometimes need to. Well, if you ask me what the differences between these modal verbs are I don't think you have to go into very detailed analysis of these modal verbs, but maybe a general impression that that you can that you should bear in mind is that these modal verbs vary in terms of their tone or the force of your of your statement. Say, for example, the use of must, M-U-S-T, must, is stronger than can or may. So, mind you, these verbs, modal verbs, semi-modal verbs, are not interchangeable because there is a subtle difference in terms of tone. The tone, T-O-N-E, the tone of your message, and the force of the message or the force of the idea that you would like to convey. But basically, we use modal verbs in order to achieve two broad functions, namely making predictions and making suggestions. So here comes an example of how we can use modal verbs. You can see from this sample task and the sample paragraph here. So this time the task is about crimes, right? Again, an example of a piece of expository writing because you are told to explain the reasons behind and propose some solutions to the problem. So here, it's a body paragraph on some um some suggested solutions, possible solutions to the issue of crimes. As you can see from this body paragraph, the writer uses some modal verbs like should, could, in, in order to make some suggestions. like what the government and also what the parents should do in the light of the growing crime rate. But in this paragraph, you can also find the modal would, would, would. Okay, here the use of would is basically not to make suggestions, but to um give a prediction of something. Like for example, the writer here is proposing the investment into building the fourth line of the body paragraph, investing more into building and staffing youth centers. Okay, this is the suggestion that the writer is proposing. And in the relative clause, which would provide guidance through the youth workers. This is actually a possible result that is that can be foreseeable by the writer. Okay, so what the writer means here is if the government can invest more into building and staffing youth centers, then the things or the words appearing after the modal would be the possible result. So here, the use of would, the modal would, is actually making a prediction. So again, I have another activity for you. If we go back to the handout. Okay, activity 1, again, the same writing task, the same writing task, the same introduction, but this time you are given a second body paragraph. The same as the previous part. Okay, I would like you to make use of the writing plan here to put these suggestions, which I've highlighted into gray. Okay, to put these ideas into complete sentences using appropriate modal verbs. You know what you are told to do now? Okay. So can I give you like this time the paragraph the gaps in the paragraph are longer, right? So I think you may need more time to work on this paragraph. Can I give you like 10 minutes in total? 10 minutes to work on this paragraph together with a break. What I mean is if you work on this paragraph first, and if you and the remaining time can be for you to have something like a toilet break, or maybe have a cup of tea before we continue. Okay, so it's now 3:10. So can we start again at 3:20? In this 10 well in this 10 in the coming 10 minutes, you work on this paragraph and have a break at the same time. All right, great. Okay, let us continue. Thank you, Yuji. Okay, thank you for two answers from Brendan. Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you. I'm reading the first sentence. Actually, your first sentence puts the ideas here. Or more specifically, the suggestion, okay, into a full or complete sentence. Okay, governments could introduce adequate legislation and controls specifically designed for young people, implementing more complex website access criteria to ensure their safety online. Okay, this is a good sentence. I like that you use the modal verb could to make a suggestion. What the governments could do. Governments could introduce adequate legislation and controls. I also like the way you paraphrased some of the words here. Like for example, in the writing plan, it says for young people, right? For young people. Uh, and in your version, in your sentence, you used specifically designed. You added the two words specifically designed for young people. This is a good example of paraphrasing. Um, you have also added I mean, I'm referring to the clause to implementing more complex website access criteria to ensure the safety online. I'm referring to the clause to ensure the safety online. This is actually a good example of how we can apply the language of purpose into practice. Of course, we can say in order to, or so as to ensure the safety online. This is a good application of the language of purpose. Okay, and what's the next sentence? Should active, okay, this time, okay, the second gapped sentence is related to parents. Okay, parents should actively monitor their children's internet usage and restrict access to potentially harmful content by utilizing computer programs designed for parental control. Again, I can see the correct use of the modal should, right? Parents should do something. Okay. And I can also see some good examples of paraphrasing using other vocabulary, right? Using or adding other vocabulary items. Like for example, I can see you have added the expression internet usage. Okay, internet usage, and also potential potentially harmful content. These are good topical vocabulary that we can add in order to show our examiner that we know a range of vocabulary items. I also like the way you use the word utilize instead of the word used here. This is a good example of paraphrasing. And you've also added the word parental designed for parental control. You are able to use to add this clause in order to further enrich the idea here in the writing plan. So I really like your sentences. So you see, you can write even better sentences than I do, right? So I always like to see answers from students because um I would like to get more better ideas from you all, right? And Brandon has shown some good sentences which are rich in paraphrasing and also demonstrating the correct use of the modal verbs. Also, there is one more answer. Companies. Okay, this time it's about solution three. Companies must improving their IT security systems. Um, uh, Here I actually have two suggestions, two small pieces of advice. And number one, after must we use the bare infinitive. So here must improving, we can simply say must improve the current IT security systems. Okay. Um I think one way to extend, I think another piece of advice that I would like to give here is to extend the sentence by giving more details, like saying something like how the present systems could be strengthened or reviewed or strengthened or enhanced, right? But overall, the answers or the sentences given by Brandon is actually are actually good examples of how we can apply not just modal verbs but also the language of purpose and also the skill of paraphrasing into practice when it comes to giving suggestions in argumentative and expository writing. So overall, good job, Brandon. Okay, okay. So okay, so I like these answers a lot, right? So you can see well, you can write better sentences than I do. But anyway, as promised, I will show you my own versions. But again, my versions are not may not be perfect, just to give you an idea of how we can apply the target grammar items into practice. So you can see my suggested answers here. Again, I use the modal verb should after the noun, after the subject governments. Okay, governments should do something. Okay, and I don't just give a suggestion, but I also explain how the suggestion can be implemented. So as you can see here, how the suggestion can be implemented. Okay, so well, this is a skill in content or idea elaboration. I also use the term this semi-modal need to in order to tell the reader what parents need to do, right? And I used the modal verb must after companies to suggest what companies, the actions that companies can take in order to resolve the issue. Okay, so I've talked a lot about the use of modals and semi-modals, right? So let me move on to talk about linking words. In some grammar books, you will see the use of term penetives. Actually, different grammarians are using different terms to refer to the same set of words here. And linking words, the term linking words is just one of the examples of the terminology. But basically, the idea that you need to have is that we can use words like first, second, third, or in addition. In addition, in conclusion, all these linking words in order to connect our ideas appropriately. But bear in mind or be careful not to overuse these words, right? It's very easy for Chinese learners of English to overuse these linking words. What I mean by overusing, that is, you use too many or too frequent, use these words too frequently in a piece of text that can, in a way that makes your writing very mechanical to read. Uh, last semester, I actually had another workshop introducing these linking words in detail. So if you go to the language center YouTube channel, actually you'll be able to find the recording of my previous workshop about and maintaining coherence and cohesion in writing. And in that video, you can find my explanations of the appropriate use of these linking words. But here, because of the time limit, I can't go into detail each of these categories of linking words. But you can visit this website. This is actually a site, a document. You can see the screenshot here. The screenshot here. This is actually a document listing some examples of what we call cohesive devices that you can apply in your writing. But again, be careful not to overuse these items. So this is a document or a PDF file that you can download after this workshop. But what I would like to draw your attention now is to show you one type of linking words that we use quite a lot in this type of argumentative and expository writing. And I would like to draw your attention to activity 2 now. So this time I'm not asking you to complete paragraphs, but I'm asking you to read a sample. It's actually as you can see on page 3 of your handout, it's actually a sample script written in response to an authentic IELTS writing task, and this sample got a band 7, overall band 7. The topic is whether cooking and eating at home is better for the individual and the family than eating out in restaurants and canteens. It's actually an example of a one-sided argumentative writing, right? Asking you to say whether you agree or disagree with something, and you give your arguments. So the candidate does that. Okay, the candidate first expresses whether he agrees or whether he or she agrees or disagrees with the statement, and the candidate states the opinion very clearly. My personal opinion is that eating at home is better for the individual and the family than eating out. This is the stance of the candidate. Okay. What I would like you to do is actually very simple. You just need to read the sample and underline 3 sequencing words. Find the words which signal the beginning of each argument. Okay. Not just sequencing words, but also one connective, just one connective, which the candidate uses to summarize or to conclude the essay. So read the essay and underline the 3 sequencing words and the connective. So can I give you 3 minutes to do this? And then we can go through this passage very quickly. Okay, so this shouldn't be a very difficult task for you because the words are quite obvious to you, right? Here, the writer in the passage, the writer is using linking words like first, second, or finally to mark the beginning of each of the 3 arguments, right? And then the writer uses the the linking word in brief in order to tell the reader that this is a conclusion. Overall, you can do this. Okay, you can say first, this is first, blah, 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 second, blah, 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 finally, blah, 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 in brief, blah, blah, blah. Of course, you can do this, and the candidate actually succeeds in getting a band 7, right? But we need to show some variety in terms of word usage, right? Variety is important in the IELTS exam. So, it would be good to think about how we can use other means to connect ideas using just first, second, and finally. You can do this, but this would be too low level for us if we are targeting at a higher band, right? Like band 8 or even 9. Okay, I don't know, but this will be too low level, too fundamental. Okay, we all know we can use first, second, and finally. Here, I have if you look at the figure here, I do have a suggestion. I've actually pointed this out in my previous 2 workshops on coherence and cohesion, but let me just reiterate that actually we can use the connectives apart or aside from or besides or introduction. We can use these connectives in order to connect the preceding argument to the next argument here. So instead of just using first, second, and finally, what I mean is we can apply these words like this. Besides money saving, home dining allows you to freely select your favorite dishes to cook and eat. Okay, money saving is actually an argument that the candidate puts forward in the previous paragraph. I'm using a noun phrase to summarize what I've pointed out in the previous paragraph before I move on to introduce to my reader this following argument. So this is kind of like a rhetorical skill requiring you to use a noun phrase to summarize what you have mentioned in the previous paragraph before you start the new paragraph. And I use the connectives aside from, besides, and in addition to, in order to achieve this purpose. So this is a skill that you may want to practice more before you go for your IELTS writing exam. Okay. So let's just move on to part B very quickly. This time you are shown another sample. This time the sample is even better. It got a 8.5 in the IELTS writing exam. So this should be a good piece of writing in the eyes of the examiners. Okay, this time you are given another topic, children who are brought up in families that do not have large amounts of money are better prepared to deal with the problems of adult life than children brought up by wealthy parents. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this option? Again, an example of one-sided argumentative writing. So here, what I would like you to do is to underline two sentence starters which the candidate uses to give examples. Or you can see from a lot of passages, a lot of pieces of writing that we can use. For example, for instance, to introduce examples to our readers, right? But again, we need more variations. Variations. Okay, so here, the candidate actually uses, because of the time limit, I'm just showing you two examples here. Two examples of sentence structures that you can use for the purpose of exemplification. Exemplification means giving examples. What sentence structures do the candidates use? A good example is. A good example is blah, blah, blah. A relevant example would be blah, blah, blah. So these are the good two sentence structures that you can consider using. And I don't think I have enough time to ask you to do to read another passage in which the writer also uses a range of words to give examples. On page 6 of your handout, this is the passage that I'm referring to. Unfortunately, we won't have enough time for this. What I intended to do is to ask you to read this passage again and to find out some more sentence starters or some more words that the words and phrases that the writer uses in order to introduce examples to readers. I think you can read the passage later, but I'm just alerting you to the fact that we can use a range of other linking words in order to introduce or to give examples. Other than for instance, you can use an illustration of this is blah blah blah. This can be demonstrated by blah blah blah, or shown by the fact that blah 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 blah. What I mean is there is a range of words other than for example, for instance, a range of words that we can use to give examples rather than for example, for instance. Well, you can use for example or for instance, but they'll be too low level. Okay. Okay, so this slide just shows some sentences that we can observe from the passage that I've just mentioned. Okay, so some other. So bear in mind that we can have a range of linking words in order to achieve the purpose of exemplification, or basically to give examples. Um, Sometimes it would be good to think about how to vary the position and use of linking words. Sometimes we can, sometimes what we call sentence initial connectives, or words that of or the way that you use first, second, and third. If you put them at the beginning of the sentence, if you do this all the time, that this can make your writing too mechanical to read. So we can vary the position a bit. Like, for example, instead of saying firstly, comma, blah, 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 we can say the first example of the first advantage of blah, blah, blah is that blah, blah, blah. Or we can put linking words like as a result, therefore, for example, for instance, after the subject of the sentence, like here, traffic problems, comma, as a result, therefore, comma, have decreased significantly. Or like this example, some cities in the Netherlands, comma, for example, for instance, comma, blah, 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 blah. We can that's what I mean by varying the position of linking words. We don't just put linking words at the beginning of the sentences, but we can consider moving it a bit within the sentence. So I'm covering a bit about academic grammar and vocabulary here, because bear in mind that this writing task is actually an example of academic writing. IELTS Writing Task 2 requires you to write an academic essay. Remember that, an academic essay. So it should be showing some features of academic writing, right? I think you've learned features of academic grammar and vocabulary in your language enhancement courses here, right? Like the use of hedges, boosters, okay, like the avoidance of contractions like is, or avoidance of questions. So I'm not going to go through these slides in detail because of the time limit. But I'm just reminding you that you, in your writing, you do have to show features of academic grammar and vocabulary. When it comes to academic vocabulary, bear in mind that while it is good to vary the use of words, the word choice shouldn't be too informal or too casual, like get, get, thing, thing, right? Um, Try to use some formal vocabulary, formal verbs like examines instead of look at, right? Use formal verbs and formal expressions. Okay, okay, as I've mentioned earlier in the workshop, paraphrasing is a key or very important skill that we need to master before our IELTS writing exam. So in the coming few minutes, may I just remind you of what we can do for paraphrasing. So in the last workshop, actually, I introduced 4 paraphrasing skills. The use of synonyms, I think the sentences written by you have demonstrated the use of synonyms. Okay, I think you know we need to use synonyms or words with similar meanings in IELTS exam. We don't repeat the same word all the time. Sometimes you can change the sentence structures, word classes, and word orders in order to paraphrase something, right? And here, I would like to introduce a term to you, or a grammar item that you may need to practice before your IELTS writing exam, and that is nominalization. If you look at the sentences written on the right-hand side of the screen, actually, you can see 5 pairs of sentences, right? Sometimes let me take the first pair of sentences. Okay, he failed, which angered his parents. This sentence can be rewritten as his failure caused his parents' anger. So here you can see I'm changing the verb failed into the noun failure, right? I changed the adjective angered, A-N-G-R-E-D, into the noun anger. So what I'm doing here, I'm playing with word clusters. And this way of playing with word clusters is actually an example of nominalization. Mind you, why do we need to practice nominalization in IELTS Writing Task 2? Because we need to produce a formal piece of writing, and nominalization can increase the formality of writing. And this kind of taken together, I mean, the paraphrasing skills together with nominalization will be necessary for your IELTS writing because you need to write an introduction. Remember, you need an introduction of your essay, right? And in the introduction, you can't just copy the task, okay? Or else the examiner would criticize you and say that, okay, you haven't demonstrated a range of vocabulary. So paraphrasing the task prompt is very important if you want to write a good introduction. You also need paraphrasing skills for your conclusion because you need to, remember in your conclusion, we often have to summarize the key points in your essay, right? And to do this, you refer to the topic sentences that we have written for the paragraphs and paraphrase the topic sentences, those topic sentences into the conclusion. So that's why I say paraphrasing is a key skill for an introduction and for a conclusion. Originally I've included an activity to help you practice paraphrasing. But I don't think we'll have time to do this. But don't worry, I'm trying to use this to show you how we can do paraphrasing. And this is a task about whether take away food or do it yourself food or homemade food would be a better choice. But here, if you look at the task more carefully, it requires you to discuss both choices, both takeaway food and homemade food, and finally give your own opinion. But let's just focus on the introduction written by the candidate. As you can see here, the candidate has done a lot to paraphrase the task prompt because the sentence structures are almost the same. If you compare the task on the on the left-hand side of the screen with the candidate's introduction on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the sentence structures are quite similar, although there are some changes in terms of vocabulary, like changing popular to common or many to numerous. Obviously, this degree of paraphrasing isn't enough, and we need to do more. Okay, let me quickly show you my own example. You can see I have used synonyms. I've used alternative sentence structures on the one hand, on the other hand, right, to show two contrasting situations. And the two contrasting situations are actually from the task prompt, right? But I'm using the connectives on the one hand, on the other hand, in order to change the sentence structure a bit, right? I'm also using nominalization, like changing the adjective popular to popularity. I'm also playing with the word order. One example would be in the task, bring homemade food to eat. I changed the word order by shortening it and in my own version, you can see I've used prepare their homemade lunch. Okay. So this is an example of playing with word order. I can send you these slides after the workshop for you to study. And if you have questions, you can always approach me by email. So let me just wrap up the session. I hope that by the end of this workshop, you can remember the 4 typical language features that you need for your IELTS Writing Task 2 argumentative and expository essays. And they are, I think you should be able to remember the terms, right? Language of cause and effect, language of purpose, modality, and also linking words, or what some people call connectives. I also hope that by the end of the workshop, you should be able to write an essay with an argumentative or an expository essay with greater confidence when it comes to the application of these typical language features in writing. So I'm attaching a checklist for you for you to use. I would suggest that after you have produced or practiced IELTS Task 2 essay, you make use of this checklist to help you reflect on your performance in your IELTS writing in relation to Task 2. So finally, let me just remind you that we have a forthcoming workshop next Wednesday, and the next workshop will be about speaking. Okay, if you are interested in the workshop, you can go and register with the Language Center, and I hope to see you there. Okay, towards the end of the workshop, I would like to invite you to do us a favor by filling in an evaluation, and Ash is going to help me with that.